Welcome back to the podcast, New Birth Fitness Family. My name is Shiloh Bryant. This is my wife.
Dani. So today we're going to be talking about a topic that all moms go through.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, really accepting the new identity that comes with either if you're becoming a mom for the very first time or every time that you are bringing a child into this life, there's always a shift. I feel like this is something that it affects every mother, but it's very important to talk about because most women feel like they're alone and that they're the only ones that are feeling this way, that are going through certain things, and that it's hard for. And sometimes we may feel bad because we may think, well, is motherhood even supposed to feel this difficult? Is it supposed to feel this hard? Is it supposed to be so taxing?
Maybe feeling judgment from others, feeling like people don't understand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the truth is, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Becoming a mom is a whole process. Even the 9 months that you're carrying the child, or even before when you're thinking about, hey, we want to have a baby, or whether it be under whatever circumstances, your life completely changes from the moment that you find out that you're going to have a baby. And, yeah, I just wanted to get into that because I feel like a lot of women are going through these internal thoughts.
So when you first figured out that you were pregnant, what were all the thoughts and feelings and emotions just going through you about what was to come?
Okay, so for me, it was definitely something that was I wasn't expecting. I was very young, but regardless of, what age you may be or what are your circumstances, it's like, wow, this is really happening right now. Like I'm really pregnant. And it's almost like that first initial shock. And it's like, wow, my life is about to take a turn. Whether it's something that you've really been waiting for, whether it's something that you were not really expecting, it's always that, oh my God.
Do you feel like there was more fear, more happiness, sadness? I'm about to cry. What do you feel like was some of those main emotions that kind of came up?
I think for me, I was scared.
Yeah.
I was definitely very scared because I was young. I was still in school. I hadn't graduated high school yet. I knew that it was going to be a shock for my family, for my parents, but it was more like I'm really about to have the responsibility of having somebody else's life in my hands. And just knowing that there was going to be so many changes in my life and what I knew currently was no longer going to be.
Yeah.
It was something that when you first initially find out, it's like, wow. And then I feel like all the thoughts start to happen, and like I said, everybody has different circumstances, but I feel like every mom goes through that initial, oh my God, my life is going to change. And it's very true. And I feel like, it's something that it's almost like our superpower as moms is to be able to embrace it. And no matter what comes, even if it's, pregnancy, you're having a difficult pregnancy or it's smooth, or you're having things that you're having to plan out. It's almost like that it's in us. It's in us to just say, hey, I'm preparing for this new life that's about to come about. So I think that it's very important to look at ourselves from the perspective of we're powerful. We create life. There's things that men could definitely not endure. That's why it was given to us, and even just the thought of, it's so true. It's so true. It's like, we bring life into this world. And just really giving ourselves props for that, because
I think also that's kind of the first shift that happens is, all your focus now goes to basically the baby that's coming. That is like the primary focus. So I think that's actually probably where the shift starts to happen when women start to lose themselves. Start to be, the kid is the focus completely. And it's like, I don't even remember who I used to be. So I think that's kind of that first shift in that dynamic. So what would you say can be done to not lose yourself completely while still, like, of course, you're loving your kid, the one that's on the way, but still thinking about
Yeah,
you
I mean,
too.
for in that situation, I think that the best thing that you can do is to think about yourself. If I'm doing good, and I'm taking care of myself and I have self-care and I'm still focused on me, the better off that baby
Yep.
is going to
There you
be.
go. Yep.
Even in postpartum, there's a lot of, women that, something that you would never imagine you're going to go through. But if you do go through postpartum depression, or even if it's not like postpartum depression, but there's still a lot of changes, you have to find a way to prioritize the things that are going to make you still focus on
Yep.
yourself, regardless of the fact that you have a newborn.
The main point is, anytime you're giving to somebody, you shouldn't stop giving to yourself. Because the moment you stop giving to yourself, eventually there's going to come a time where you can't give to them anyway. They can't get the best version of you because you have nothing left to give.
Yeah.
So,
And it's little small things, and sometimes as, you know, first time moms or any kind of mom that's going through, I just had a baby,
yep.
or, maybe the baby is, a little older now, but there's all these changes, or now this is a baby, but I have 2 or 3 more kids.
Yeah.
How do I really balance this so that I even have a moment? And it becomes very overwhelming.
I can imagine there's so many different tasks. Like, oh, I gotta change the diaper.
Mhm.
Oh, I gotta get them some food. Oh, I
Mhm.
gotta put their clothes on. And all these other things that in between those little pockets, you just wanna,
Yeah. Yeah. But
right?
what
hmm
happens, or for me personally, everybody would tell me, when the baby sleeps, make sure you sleep, or make sure that, when the baby sleeps, you take a shower, you do something that makes you feel good, you put some lotion
That's
on
right.
your
Yep.
skin, but
Even do some of the activities you like.
when you're, yeah, you could go for a walk with the baby,
hmm
you could do something that makes you feel good in the
Yep.
moment. But when you're in the situation, it's almost like I have to do what I can't do because my attention is always on the
Yep.
baby. So let's say your house is falling apart because, you've been taking care of this baby all the time. Now you're thinking, well, I should, while the baby sleeps, go fix the house
There you go. Yep.
or go do something with the kids. But you really need to prioritize those moments that you get to take a breather,
Yep.
and really try to recenter yourself, because like I said, if you're good, your baby's good.
And here's
If
the
you're
thing.
good, your family's good.
And because if you focus only on the things that are bad, focus on only the things that are causing you way more stress, you're missing out on all the things that could cause you even more joy in between those moments,
You're
but you
missing
don't
the
get a
moments.
chance to. You don't
Yeah,
get a
you're
chance
missing
to.
the moments because of, oh, this is so hard, or I'm so sleep
Yep.
deprived, or just in general, all the changes. Because when a woman goes through pregnancy and childbirth, the whole roller coaster of, hormones
Yep.
and all the changes that are going on in your body, it's literally been shown that it takes you up to 2 years to fully recover from a pregnancy
Yep.
and from postpartum. So you have to give yourself grace in those moments. And sometimes, we'll have a support system and sometimes we won't, but I think that if you do have people around you that want to help, to allow them to help you, to allow them, or set up a time where it's like, well, do you mind helping me with this, or asking for help, even if it's becoming too overwhelming, you have to reach out to
I
somebody.
think that's such a big part because so many women, it's almost because you know it's going to be hard before you even have a baby. You do everything to actually make it harder. You do everything to fit what you already know is going to happen versus thinking about what things can I do to lighten the load a little bit. Of course, you're not going to be able to give it all away, but what things can I do to lighten the
Well,
load a little
and
bit?
just in general, and how the makeup of a woman and of a mom, there's certain stages that you're going to have even through pregnancy that are preparing you for the moment.
Yeah.
The stage of, where they're calling you crazy because it's called nesting, where women, they're doing everything they can to like ultra prepare
Yeah.
for when the baby gets here.
hmm
But those moments where you're feeling overwhelmed, like, I got to set up the nursery, I got to make sure every piece of clothes is washed, I got to make sure that there is no dust in this house, and those are the moments where it's taking a lot of energy. And we're going to do it anyways because it's in us. It's part of that. We're getting ready for a baby. But at the same time, when you're going through that, don't run yourself down. Don't be the person that, now you're very stressed about, what's something that's supposed to be giving you, a lot of joy.
Yeah, it's so easy to turn that joyful thing into a very hard, stressful, wow, all those years went by, I didn't even get to enjoy that time there. That's so easy. I can imagine that's so easy to do.
It's almost like you're getting stuck in the motions of things, because really when you're trying to get down, and figure out your baby and a routine that works for you, it's almost like you're having to do the same.
Yeah.
But things ease out, with time. That newborn phase is not going to last forever. It's going to be something that, you're going to be like, wow, I got to sleep instead of, sleeping 2 hours straight. I got to sleep maybe 3. Then I got to sleep maybe 4. Now the baby's sleeping through the night. So what do you do to be able to get back into a routine that makes you feel good when those things are happening? So,
and I personally believe that all the different energy and your emotion, your mindset, and the state you're in while you're pregnant, I personally believe that affects your kid when they come out. So if you're always all over the place, always anxious, always full of anxiety, depression, and all that things, how can they be inside of you? And getting all of that from you, being literally, that's the closest anybody can be with you is inside of you. How can it not rub off on your child? So I think that's a big part, is being conscious of how you're moving before they even come out.
Yeah, and I mean, there's all kinds of circumstances, that mothers go through.
Yep.
But just being very conscious of that and saying, how can, to the best of my ability, with what I have to work with right now, make sure that this, pregnancy is as smooth as possible, as, stress-free as I can, because that that's affecting the baby. And sometimes there are going to be stressful situations, and that does come with, it's, what is it called? That does come with its effect. So, even for me personally, I'm not sure to this day if, both of my kids were born premature because of, stress and all the different things.
So let's talk about that, right? So like you're saying, it could be because of stress and everything. So what was your feeling on the day of, hey, I'm about to give birth right now? What was that feeling like leading up to that experience?
Well, for me,
that deep breath.
It was like, because even with both of them, it was very nerve-wracking, because I knew that, labor had started before it should, so I was like, what is this gonna mean, to me, right now, but how is this gonna affect the baby? Like, what are the things that we're gonna have to do? But I think it was, and for any mom, I think it's like, I'm really about to have to do this right now, so. And that's why I feel like you should use all the resources that you have available to you. Whether that is, you're going to these birthing classes or you're reading books. I remember I read, a couple of books while I was pregnant to try to prepare for, the birth, but nothing prepares you for that. Nothing, absolutely nothing. But there's things that you can do, because everything is so unexpected. You don't know how things are actually going to turn out, how you're going to be able to handle, because some people handle pain better than others. Some people, it doesn't matter if they're telling you do this in the moment, you're not listening, you're just like, I need you to help me right now. So it's just a different experience. But the more that you can prepare yourself mentally for the moment, and really what you thought was going to help you, that's not what's going to help you. But when you're in the moment, really try to think about what is going to help me right now to get through this, and really tap into that. Whether that is, I'm breathing, whether it's I'm praying, whether it's, you know, I'm moving around, whether you have a supportive partner and you're, you know, you're leaning into that person, whatever it may be, or if you have, you know, your mom, your sibling, anybody that you feel like could really help you in that moment, it's all about preparing. Because you want it to be, you know, how you're going to be able to handle, you know, because some people handle pain, but it's very nerve-wracking.
And what's the feeling of now the child is here and they're in your arms? What does that feel like? What thoughts go through your mind at that time?
I mean, it's a moment of joy. I think it's like, and of relief. Like, oh, I can, you know, I can breathe. And then you're asking, are they okay? I feel like that's mostly like the main,
healthy,
like just making sure, like, is everything okay? You know, are they breathing? When you hear that first cry, it's like, oh, thank you, God. You know, like everything is okay.
It's a blessing in itself.
But healthy, and it's really crazy because all the pain and all the things that you went through and pregnancy and the moment that baby's born, it just, woo. And it's like, it's really magical because it's like, wow, I just did that.
It's really a life lesson. Like when we look at issues, like, oh my God, it's so hard. I'm never going to get through this. I'm going to die right now. And then, hey, right, that's how you feel. And then next thing you know, here's the baby in your arms. So you can relate that to anything in life and be like, how many bad circumstances have you been in where you didn't think you were going to make it past it at all, and now you're here today? I'm sure there's 5, 10 different things that we felt that exact way. Now
and it's almost like, look, you gave birth to a child. You can do anything.
There you go. So
let's kind of recenter that energy because look at what you're capable of doing. If you're capable of this, you know,
But I think those are the things that people don't give themselves enough credit for. No. So when those situations come up in the future, where if you use that same energy, if I got past this, I can do this. It doesn't matter what it is. You can catapult your life. But we almost brush past those ones that literally are the superpower. That is a mom's superpower. You did the hardest thing you could possibly do for hours of time. And just letting that breeze by. Use that superpower in anything you do in life. It doesn't matter what the challenge is. If you can do that, you can do anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
So don't breeze past that being a superpower. Use it, embrace it, leverage it. So now going from that point, right? So the baby is out, and now you have the baby home. What is that dynamic like when now you're home, pooping all the time, and crying all the time, and waking you up in the morning? Like, see, you just flash back to a lot of those different things. My bad. Right? So now when that's happening, tell me about the thoughts and emotions and things going through your head at that time.
I mean, I definitely cried with the baby a couple of times.
So you cheering up and y'all crying together.
But that kind of, you know, gives you an idea. But I feel like it's almost, I used to always think like things are about to get better. You know, with every day that passed, it was like, it's just another day of him being a newborn. But things are going to get better. You know, he's going to grow out of this stage. And I always try to find ways to make things easier for me so that I wasn't so stressed out and in the feeling of this is so hard. Because if you do little things that help you out, and I was a breastfeeding mom, so not only was I, you know, breastfeeding my child, but I was also, you know, pumping milk and saving milk. And I was, you know, thinking about, you know, well, what if, you know, when I have to go back to work? And there's all these things that I was thinking ahead to make my life, you know, easier. But I feel like, you know, sometimes as women, and I don't know why we do this because it's terrible. You know, we've all been through the same experiences, but we tend to put other, you know, mothers down with decisions that they're making, how they're handling things, or how you think that they should do things. And, you know, if that's not your baby, you can understand, you know, your mom, your mother-in-law, people that are but everybody gives unsolicited advice. And you are the only one that has this deep connection and intuition about yourself and your child.
And there's so many
So,
circumstances that they don't get to see. They're seeing a little snapshot and they're
mm-hmm.
judging you based on that little snapshot they saw for a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds. But
Yep.
there's so many other factors that if they had those same factors, they might have been responding the same way, but they're not taking
Yeah.
that into
And
account.
it almost, those comments or those questions that may be, made, it's almost like if you let it, it really is a setback because it allows, doubt about what you're doing and the job and all the energy and all the work that you're putting into this seep in. And now you're feeling some kind of way about yourself.
And that's what kind of starts causing the distance and the isolation. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm all by myself.
Yep.
And when you get in those kind of thoughts, you don't go uphill
Yeah,
with those
so
kind of
I think
thoughts.
it's important to have your own boundaries, to tell people what you expect,
Yep.
and I remember, I was a type of mom that's like, hey, you want to come over, you want to hold the baby, go wash your hands, put a blanket on you, you can come for 20 minutes, max, but I'm not trying to be overstimulated. I don't need the baby to be overstimulated. That doesn't help me. So it's really setting a lot of boundaries and finding ways not only with the things that you're doing around you to help you, but how can you get this baby in a routine
Yes, I was just
to
about to say
make
that.
things
That's a big one.
easier for you? So sometimes, we'll say something like, well, the baby's only sleeping, during the day, but it doesn't sleep at night, and I just want to sleep at night. I just want to have a good night's rest. But you're allowing the baby to sleep all day long. And when it's nighttime, well, of course, the baby's going to be awake. So you want to find little ways to, during the day, wake up the baby, play with them, take them out for a walk, getting sunlight because now they can differentiate. Oh, it's daytime and it's time to be a little bit more active. And now, nighttime, they're ready to basically wind down.
Mm.
And that's not to say that that's going to happen right at
Yep.
newborn stage because it doesn't, babies will do
Yep.
whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
But as they're getting older, you can definitely
Train them into it. Yep.
train the babies, train, even when they're 6 months old, to start sleeping, on their own, to start doing certain things that makes life easier for you. So I remember that was something that I was very criticized about, like you're not going to go pick up the baby, the baby's, crying. And I would say, well, the baby's fed.
Mm-hmm.
The baby, I changed the diaper, of course, if it's gone too long, then I'm going to try to see what's wrong. But most of the time, they would soothe out on themselves. A lot of people have mixed opinions about this, because a lot of people say, you don't have to let the baby cry because they're going to get spoiled. And research has shown, that it's like, it doesn't make a difference. You can hold your baby and not spoil them. But at the same time, I have done it the other way around. And I've had a lot smoother, journeys than a lot of people that have done it the other way. And now they're saying, well, I can't get the baby to sleep if it's not in my arms.
Here's the thing, right? We come into this world as master manipulators, right? So if I cry, every single time I cry, they do this. Every single time I throw my bottle down, they do this. So what we're still, even though they're young, they're very smart and they're picking up and adapting to what's going on. So if you allow them to, they will control every aspect of how you move throughout. So then now imagine their whole experience with you has been, I've been controlling everything since I came out. Now I'm 1 years old. I still been controlling everything. What do you think that kid has been controlling everything from 1 years old to 2 years old?
Yeah.
What they're gonna look like when they grow up, or what
Now
they
you
like
get
as
a toddler and it's a lot more work and it's, I think that there's definitely ways, in that journey that you can set routines and things that are going to help you in the long run. And sometimes, you may feel like, oh, that doesn't work. But give it a try. Give it a try
Yep.
because sometimes you may think that, oh, that doesn't really work. But it makes things more painful when you don't even try and you're getting the results of can't sleep or my child is already 1 or 2 and they still don't want to sleep on their own. But what you don't realize is that you caused that.
There you go.
Or,
Yep.
they don't want to leave,
Yep.
even when they're getting a little older, they don't want to leave my bed. But
Yeah.
why were they in your bed in the first place?
It's
Because that's where you put them.
it's so easy to just blame externally
Exactly.
versus what things could I change now
Yes.
to get a different result makes a huge
Yes, and it's
difference.
going to be hard and it's going to be difficult and it's going to break your heart
Yep.
that you have to do certain things, because even I remember my second son, Sebastian, he never used the pacifier because it was so hard for me to take it away from my first one. He would, and I remember it was heartbreaking because I'm like, I know you want your passy, but if I keep giving it to you, then you're going to be 2, 3 years old with a passy in your mouth. So, I would have to say, it's gone.
That messes their teeth up too.
Yeah, it's gone. We can't use it anymore. It's nasty. We lost it. Every time that he would ask me or whatever, or I could tell like, oh, but this is when he was already older. And I'm like, okay, you should not be using a pacifier anymore. But sometimes we want to, we want to help them soothe, and it breaks our heart. Even when I remember, the first year, I was like, well, they're going to sleep, in the bed, not in the bed, but in the bedroom, with me. And slowly I'm going to transition to, them sleeping in their own room. And that's the best thing that I could have done, because sometimes you're teaching them this independence or co-independence that I always have to be stuck to mom. So you get these babies or these kids that you can't go anywhere with them, or you can't leave them absolutely anywhere with anybody because they'll cry all day long. Yep. And you want to teach them that, yes, mom is here and mom's going to hold you, and, it's safe here, but also that they're not scared of the world because they've always been like this. Yep. They've always been so attached to you. So even, when my kids were, around that 1.5, they started sleeping on their own in their own crib in their own room. I had monitors and everything, but I'd rather wake up in the middle of the night and go check on them multiple times, 2 or 3 times if necessary, than to have them in my bed just because they're right beside me. But now I've created an issue for myself where now I can't even sleep in the same bed with my partner. I don't get any privacy. The kids are taking up all the space. They're moving around. I can't sleep.
It creates way more stress, and you take it from yourself.
Yeah, and you definitely want to make things easier for yourself, but at the same time, you want to think about, how is this going to affect me in the long run? And for me, there's definitely things that, looking back now, I would have done differently, but there's definitely things that I would have kept the same. And regardless of what anybody was saying, I would have still kept the same. So you just really have to be in your intuition, as a mom, and you really have to use what's already in you, because I feel like it's already in us, and for some, it's easier to tap into it. And for others, because of different situations and things that have happened, it's a little bit more difficult, or there's some kind of blockage, or even just the hormones and the things that are going on in your body are blocking you from being able to do the things that you're supposed to do. But if that is the case and you feel like for whatever reason, you don't have this connection, or you really don't know what you're doing and you can't figure it out, and it's overwhelming you to the point of, I don't want anything to do with this, more than likely you need to get help, because that could be postpartum depression. Mm-hmm. And it's not that something's wrong with you. Yeah. Is that your body is trying to adjust to all the changes that just happened, trying to re-regulate hormones. Mm-hmm. So
speaking of that, right? So what about, baby, you already got the baby home, mm-hmm. You already had a baby, all of that, right? The effect mentally and emotionally it takes when you notice your body is not what it was prior to pregnancy. Mm-hmm. What is that feeling like of, hey, maybe I'm not a fan of how I look right now? Mm-hmm. What is that like?
Yeah, I mean, how could it? You just grew, a baby inside of you, just gave life. Yep. For some people, they have, a lot of stretch marks, a lot of, gained weight, but it's not going to be overnight that it goes away. It's almost like after you have the baby, you go check yourself out in the mirror and you're like, dang, I still look pregnant. I still look the same as, when I had the baby inside me. Yes, you're still very inflamed. You still have, a lot of stuff that's going to take time. It's going to take recovering. But I think that giving yourself, you know, that grace and knowing that, hey, you know, if I really wanted to, I could look even better than I looked before I had this baby. But it's not going to happen overnight. You know, it's going to take, and it's not just going to take, oh, now I got to go run, get in the gym. But it's also going to take a little bit of, you know, self-love and doing the things, even if it's, you know, your diet right after you have a baby, you know, just taking care of yourself extra so that you are able to let go of some of the
That
weight.
actually mentioned, so there is a lot of studies that support if you work out during pregnancy, not extremely hard, not extremely heavy, but consistently working out during, it makes giving birth a lot easier and your body bounces back a lot quicker afterwards. So on top of that, so if you work out throughout, you notice a big difference. But on top of that, also, even when it comes to your food intake, sometimes when people are pregnant, they feel like this gives me the reason to just eat whatever I want at a top level. So it also makes it even harder for you to switch back to doing things the proper way when it's all gone. Right. So you want to move more towards, of course, if you're already in, you know, you already maybe had a kid, but if somebody that hasn't had a kid yet, that is something that you want to implement is how can I work out or be, you know, just move my body more while I'm pregnant, and how can I make better choices while, you know, while
and
I'm
even
pregnant?
if you're preparing or you're saying I want to have a child, trying to make sure that your body is not as pregnant, your body is as healthy as it could be, you know, beforehand. Because what they do recommend is, you know, you can keep the same physical activity that you've been used to, but you can't just bring something new in now that you're pregnant because you don't want to, you know.
It's a shock.
Yeah, it's too much for the body. But anything that you have been doing previously, whether that's going to the gym or, you know, lifting some weights, obviously it's not going to be to that extent, but you can still do those things if your body was already used to it. So embracing your body for what it has done, you know, which is bringing life. You gotta give yourself more grace. You know, you gotta be able to look at yourself and still love yourself regardless of stretch marks, regardless of, you know, pigmentation, regardless of, you know, I'm heavier, regardless of all the things. And even if it's something that's difficult at first, because you're not gonna like the way you look. You're just not gonna like it because it's gonna be totally like, and some people, they will build resentment. Like, I put my body through all this for you, you know, but really they didn't ask for that. You know, that's a decision that you made, and that's part of bringing somebody into the world. So I feel like the best thing that you can do is really prepare, and afterwards think about the things that you can do. And even when you're getting to the point of, okay, now I'm going to start working out again or do little things that make you feel good. So if you're waking up in the morning, technically you don't like the way that you feel and how you look and how your body looks. But let's say that you get in the shower, you fix your hair, you do your makeup a little bit, you wear something that, although you don't look the same, it still makes you feel good about yourself. Then now you're walking around with a different confidence that is not, I feel absolutely terrible about myself. And then you start looking at yourself different. Okay, well, today I did something that helped me lose, you know, a little bit of weight in the long run. I ate healthier. And what you'll find is that your body will bounce back if you are doing the correct things.
Don't think that because my body was this way before and now after I'm pregnant, I can't get that back or better. That is a myth. That is not true. The decisions you make is what makes it true or not true. I've taken so many women that after pregnancy, they look way better than they did prior to pregnancy. So that is absolutely not true. But the moment you start believing that's the case, you're going to do actions that support that being the case.
Yeah, or sometimes there's a lot of women out there that you can't tell that they've had, you know, 2, 3, 4 kids, you know, because they've still been able to maintain a level of activity, taking care of themselves, and that's very important. But you do see the complete opposite where somebody had, you know, 1 child, now they completely let themselves go. And maybe it's going to take you, even if it takes you years afterwards, that still doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it.
Exactly.
That still doesn't mean that you can go and do something about it.
Yeah, it's not a timeline you put on it because it's your life. How many extra years do you still have to have left to live? Think about it. If you don't do what you need to now to be better, what is your life like in results of that? Because you could be actually shaving years off your life by the choices you're making and not even realize it.
Yep.
So definitely love yourself. Like you said, give yourself grace. It is important. It's not, hey, I just had the baby and now 2 months later, I got to have the best body of my whole life.
Yeah.
No, give yourself time. Stay consistent. Take the actions that get you to where you want to be versus just focusing on, I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I feel. Don't focus on all the bad. Say, yes, those things are there. They're not going to just go away. But what good things can I do to start pushing myself in the right direction?
Yeah, and the newfound life that you're going to have should still be centered around your own self-identity.
Yep.
Should still be centered around who am I still to myself? What have I become to this child? Because this child came after you because of you. So you should still have, a sense of identity that is not just about the baby.
And here's the thing, right? Even if you like, I had my kid 10 years ago and I still feel this way right now. That's not to say you can't still reverse it. It doesn't matter how far out you are from the conversation we're having right now. The same principles still apply. You can start changing for the better to have the best version of yourself right now if you want to.
Yep.
You just got to start taking steps in that direction. You can't be sitting here like this, worrying about all of it and expect you to move forward. How are you going to move forward by sitting here, sitting still? You can't. Stand up, start taking a step at a time. Take another step at a time. What do you do when you're a baby? First, you can't sit up. Then you begin to crawl. Then you begin to try to stand up. You fall over. Then you start taking your steps and walking. Go back to being a kid and being okay with falling over to get better. Stop being scared to fail. You're not going to fail if you keep pushing forward. On that note, that's the end of the podcast, Newborn Fitness family. We'll be back at it again before you know it. We
See you
love you
next
for
time.
now. See ya.